Kent, and this is another edition or another episode of Tony Kent Writes and Cross-Examines, the world's weakest, most pathetic attempt at cross-examination that you will ever see. Today's guest is ROZ Watkins. ROZ is the author of the DI Meg Dalton series. So far, 3 books in that series and certainly more to come. It began in 2018 with The Devil's Dice, which was nominated for a CWA Debut Dagger Award, which I'm not bitter about at all, despite the fact it was the same year as my debut and nobody bothered to nominate me. She was followed up with Dead Man's Daughter, and this year, in fact, June 25th, she will follow up with her 3rd Meg Dalton outing, which is Cut to the Bone. So, ROZ, very nice to see you.
Hi, nice to see you too.
Loving the background. It's everyone else has been stuck indoors in very small rooms. I'm in my kitchen. You seem to be in the wilds of somewhere. Whereabouts are you?
I am. I'm in the Peak District, just on the edge of the Peak District. So quite an in Matlock.
Okay.
I'm in a shed in the garden.
You're in a shed in the garden. This is great Wi-Fi for a shed in the garden.
A shed's probably not quite right. It's quite a nice garden room that I splashed out on when I realised that I had to take this writing thing seriously.
So that's where you do your writing, is it? That's your writing.
It is, yeah. So it's we've got sheep behind. I don't think we can actually see any.
I've seen something wander past in the extreme background.
We've got some horses that are lying absolutely flat out, and I think we've even got a dog. Yeah, we've got.
Yeah, I can see. I just saw his nose. Is he Jack Russell?
No, he's a husky actually.
Oh, is he? I could just make out the nose. I have a Jack Russell, so I assume everyone has Jack Russells.
Say,
hello.
Dog. There you go. Say hello. Yeah.
So he'll be happy enough now, but if it gets any warmer, then he'll have to go inside.
He'd obviously been for a swim. Actually, my partner's just taken him for a walk, and I can see Rob always says, "Don't let him in the pond because it stinks."
Yeah.
But he's obviously been in the pond, so yeah, he's feeling a bit happier after that.
So, that must be given that we're all in lockdown, hence we're doing this and we're trying to all find ways to get out into the world. It must be lovely to be where you are, given that we're not really allowed to leave the surrounding area. It must be lovely to have such nice surrounding area.
It has. We have felt pretty grateful for it, really. Yeah, because it hasn't, apart from obviously not doing, I normally do quite a few library events and, we've got festivals and things. Apart from that, my routine's not been that different because I walk the dog around, there are really nice walks from our house, and I just do that. And
I was talking.
Right. Yeah, so it's.
Sorry, I just dropped my pen and then nearly pulled my earphones out because this is resoundingly amateur. I was talking to Luca Vesta yesterday, and we were saying very much that. It's hard to remember, or it's hard to. It's only at times like this that you realise quite how much of our life is based around festivals and sort of book events.
Yeah.
Because I look at the things that we're not doing.
I know this sort of. I wasn't going to go to Crime Fest anyway because I was actually supposed to be in Australia next week. So that's been a.
Was that a book thing or a holiday?
It was a sort of a book thing. It was because I used to be a patent attorney, and the Australian. I did a talk for the UK patent people in London in the autumn, just about because I killed a patent attorney in my first book. They love that.
Write what you know.
Exactly. So they've been suggesting all sorts. Can we kill a trademark attorney in the next one, and then can we kill a solicitor? And it's like, okay, barrister the next.
Leave them alone. Leave those guys alone. They're nice.
So everyone wants to kill the lawyers. It's like, I wonder. So the Australian Institute decided they wanted me to do a talk in Darwin. So
really?
Yeah, and I was like, really? But yes, they did. So I was supposed to be flying over on Monday. So that's obviously a bit of a change.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had sort of quite sad about that, and quite sad about Harrogate Festival as well.
Harrogate, I'm on tenterhooks at the moment about capital crime because living in London, I'm a big fan of capital crime, and I'm not confident. I don't think it's going to happen.
I don't think so.
It's just hard to imagine how to do it. But anyway, talking about book festivals, let's talk about books. So, Attorney Killing in the Devil's Dice. As I said, you were nominated for the debut Dagger for that. I'm not jealous at all. Really very jealous.
I think you've had
I can get really jealous about petty things. And Dead Man's Daughter was a great follow-up, and now you're about to release Cut to the Bone.
Yeah. So that's out in a few weeks.
Now, D.I. Meg Dalton series, it's all based around the Peak District, isn't it? She's a Peak District cop.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it was sort of easy for me to base it where I live. I'd initially had the idea for writing a book when I was out on a dog walk anyway. And the dog came running up to me with something in his mouth that I initially thought was a human spine, as you do. It was a hare. It was very long, surprisingly big. And so I just started thinking, what would it be like if your dog found a corpse on a walk, and how intriguing that would be. And it sort of all developed from there. So it sort of made sense to set it around here. And we've got good places to kill people, basically. It is good for that. And we've got lots of weird myths and legends. And even though we're sort of 70 miles from the sea, we've got kind of mad homicidal mermaids who live in pools. And, there's lots of those sorts of things that you can use.
Well, the Devil's Dice was a bit creepy in that way, wasn't it? I mean, it was a little bit of the kind of myths and urban legends.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, sort of myths about witches' curses and things like that, which my detective doesn't believe a word of it, but as she gets sucked in, it becomes increasingly difficult to explain it without recourse to the creepy stuff. So I kind of enjoyed torturing her in that way. Yeah,
and so she's reoccurring. Obviously, she's your main character. Where's your inspiration for Meg Dalton come from?
She's sort of like my friends, really. I wanted her to be a fairly ordinary character, not one of these kick-ass kind of female detectives that chase and apprehend criminals when wearing pencil skirts and high heels and with her hair beautifully straightened and her makeup perfect. I didn't want her to be one of them. I wanted her to be a sort of fairly ordinary person who, if you say to her, do you want to pursue a serial killer or have a nice cup of tea, she'd actually prefer to have a nice cup of tea, but she sort of gets forced into these dangerous situations. So, she's a bit fat and she's got a limp, and she's just, she never has any food in the fridge, and house is a state, and she's a bit chaotic, but she is clever. So I've given her that.
She's got a bit of Columbo about her, isn't she?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, she does love animals as well. So she's definitely like Columbo's dog. She's got a cat, Hamlet, who I can never kill because she adores him and I adore him. Nothing could ever happen.
You can't be killing pets. You can't be killing pets.
I wouldn't. No. It's funny, isn't it? The things that you won't do in books, and it's like, no, I could never kill a cat. So I've got
in my first one, in Killer Intent, I kill a lot of people. And a lot of people who are very, very important to my main character. And there is a particular scene where his dog comes to his aid. And, at the risk of a huge spoiler that will ruin the book, the dog does not survive. I was absolutely vilified by a lot of people. I can't believe you killed the dog. And I said, what about X character? What about this character? These really important people have died, and you're worried about a dog.
I know, it's funny, isn't it? I genuinely, when they're on the TV as well, when there's an animal involved, and I don't know why it upset, because obviously in real life it would upset more if a person died, but I think maybe it's because I don't know. I don't know. It's definitely more upsetting, and
it's guaranteed innocence, I guess, isn't it? A dog is always going to be collateral damage.
Yeah.
Whereas the people, you could say, have put it on themselves, but still, it's a bit extreme.
Yeah.
So speaking about killing animals, I think that probably segues quite nicely into Cut to the Bone. Tell us about Cut to the Bone.
So in the book, a young blogger woman, sort of internet star, goes missing, and she goes missing from a Peak District village, and it's a made-up village, but it's based it's set near Ladybow Reservoir, which is a reservoir where there are drowned villages. You know, when they made the reservoir, they drowned these villages, and people from
very
these
creepy, isn't it?
Very creepy, yeah. And then when the water goes down, you can see the remains of the villages, which it conveniently did. I wrote about this scorching hot summer where the water went down and the villages were revealed, and then we had that summer. So she goes missing, but the kind of really unpleasant thing is they find blood and her hair basically in the pig trough at the local abattoir. So it does look very much as if she's offended a lot of animal activists, and it does look a little bit like she's been killed and fed to pigs. And poor old Meg gets sucked into the sort of fight between the sort of pro-animal people and the people who are kind of wanting justice for this girl as they see it. And Meg's vegetarian and an animal lover, but obviously also she doesn't like to see young girls fed to pigs. So it turns into quite a traumatic case for her. And it gives me a chance to explore a few things about modern farming and some things that upset me about the way that we keep animals in factory farms. So that was quite nice, really. I like to explore all the sides of an issue of my books, and that was something
it's a nice thing about being a writer, isn't it, is that you have the option to discuss things that mean something to you. I mean, I've done it a couple of times in my own books. I've done it a couple of times in my own books, and they inevitably get edited out. So it must be quite nice for you to actually be able to do that and for it to stay in there.
Yeah, my editor she's good, actually. She doesn't seem to take stuff out. Occasionally she'll say, "Oh, we think we might have pushed that a bit too far." And obviously what you really don't want to do is get preachy about anything. So you always like to look at both sides. But in my first two books, there were things that I couldn't say. The sort of issues I explored, I couldn't really talk about without spoiling the books. It's quite nice with the third one. It obviously there is an issue about factory farming, but that's not a spoiler, so I can actually talk about it.
I guess, is there a lot of that around where you are? I mean, you're obviously in the country, you're obviously around working farms, and I remember I had a friend of mine that lived not far from you years ago, and I remember she took me to a place when they were lambing and things like that. So I know it really is a working part of the country. Yeah,
we've got lambs, the farmers' lambs in our field, and I don't have a problem with that at all. But we do also have, not far from us, a pig farm where all the pigs are kept indoors. So we never see a pig, but we hear them and we smell them. And then the farmer distributes their waste all over the fields around us.
Oh, nice.
So it's quite sad, really. You know, the pig waste sees more daylight than the pigs do. They're basically just inside for their whole lives in this stinky shed.
Which is so sad, really, isn't it? Because I mean, I love meat. I would love to not eat pork because I'm aware of all that sort of stuff, and I'm also aware that they are actually more intelligent than dogs, and yet we treat them in that way, which is just terrible. I say I'd love to not eat pork. I also love pork too much to not eat pork. So
it's a tricky one, isn't it?
It really is.
You know, I think if everyone just ate free range, then we wouldn't have this issue. It's not like everyone has to give up meat. And most people don't want to eat an animal that's lived its whole life, you know, it not being able to turn around. People don't want that. But I guess most people don't think about it very much.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? I will be honest, I do think about things like that, and I do try for very, very best to do that. But again, when you can't, I guess there's the question of cost, isn't it? I mean, it's become an industry. So, Roz, I have a number of questions that I wanted to ask you, and we've run out of time. This has been 15 minutes, believe it or not. I mean, I say this normally every episode, it flies. I'm tempted to do another video at some point soon just to do the questions, but as if you're up for that. But as of now, as for this moment, we're going to have to go. We've only got 10 seconds left. So thank you very much. Not at all. No, it's been fantastic. Thank you so much for taking part, and I'll speak to you soon. Good luck with Cut to the Bone. Everybody bite.
Cheers. Bye.